met a while ago in Hong Kong and I purchased one of your handbags
Hmm?
when MeMeraki was hand painted unique arts on luxury
Yeah,
handbags. And I had this stunning wooden purse. I think
yeah.
it was with a peacock and a forest. It was just so beautiful. And then the next thing I know, 1 year later after I got it, you had that pivot into offline and online classes,
Workshops. Yeah,
workshops. I've seen your journey go from what it was then to what
that
it
is
is now,
true.
and I can't wait to buy my first Indian art piece for my home. So
Yes,
coming.
exciting. Absolutely. Yes, thank you so much. No, you actually have been part of the journey actually because it all started in Hong Kong. The mission of why I started MeMeraki has been the same, what it was 6 years ago and what it is now, which is that taking Indian art and craft and especially like beautiful Indian art and craft from master artists, who've been practicing these arts for generations, taking it to the world in a new way. And, the handbags were a medium at that point of time when we started it. And now the medium has changed. Now the medium is, workshops, master classes, and even like paintings, which is, for your walls or home decor. And even for big corporates and, B2B organizations, like big projects for them as well, whether it be art installations, wall murals. So think Indian art and craft, and we want to make sure that we are the ones, that people think of. I think that's ultimately what we want to get to, that anyone who wants to do anything with Indian arts and crafts, we want to be able to do that. So, yes, it's definitely been one very big pivot because, in fact, I think like it's been 4 years of running it, not 6 years, because the first 2 years was a passion project where I was literally, while the mission was the same, but I was doing it maybe 15-20% of my time. But yeah, it's only when the pandemic hit that who was buying a handbag in the middle of the pandemic, that's when we realized that the artists that we were working with really struggling because obviously brands like us were not being able to give them too much work, and more importantly their regular sources of income, because the one important thing about these master artists and all traditional artisans in India is that they're not digitally enabled at all. They have no voice or presence in the online world whatsoever, so their regular sources of sales is basically like offline bazaars or craft melas, like we call it in India, or it might be tourism where they have people visiting their small towns or villages, right? Like it's either or. And I would say like 95% of them are still not digitally enabled. So this was a big struggle for them during the pandemic. That's when we realized we need to try some experiments, and we came up with the idea of like doing online art workshops because people were sitting at home as well and everyone was looking for interesting things to do. And artists, at that point of time, at least artists were open to trying out technology and trying new things, because also the other thing about Indian arts is usually they were kept within the family, and it was passed from one generation to the other. People wouldn't really teach their art or craft, but I think artists also realize these are desperate times. A, they need sources of income, and B, they do want the crafts to continue because in a lot of cases their next generation is not continuing it anymore, right? So it just created those conditions where we could try out these experiments. And literally the first workshop was my friends across the world, the second workshop was my family across the world. And I could see the beginnings of, okay, this looks very scalable, because the kind of excitement there was when people were learning it, right? Like, the wow factor when they would see the artist studio almost, right? It almost felt like while you can't travel, but you're almost there because you can see how they work, you can see their work, their paintings, right? You can see how all their paints are made, and and you're creating something beautiful as part of their workshop as well. So I feel like that's where our journey really started, because that's when I started focusing on it, full time as well. So yes, it's been about 2 years of, passion project, 4 years of full time working on it, and lots of mini pivots, like you said.
So then you know what? Let's just then chat about just the last 4 years because
Yeah.
I feel like this is what I guess this is the moment that you committed.
Hmm.
In order to do these workshops, right, you needed to find the right artist. Did you first kind of chat about the idea with your friends and family? Hey, I want to do this. What do you think about it? Or did you just do it? Go find an artist and just do it?
So the artists, we have worked with them already, right? Because we were creating handbags earlier. So we did have, about 30 to 40 artists that we were working with already. But in order to experiment, I think the first thing we realized is we were worried about what the internet would be like in their locations, because these are small towns and villages. So the first thing, and also how people would respond to it as well. So the first experiment we tried is we actually got them all to create videos themselves, like explain to them how to like put their phone, right, and kind of record like, some zoomed in shots, but literally like 30, 40 minutes of recordings where they created something end to end. And then we edited those videos and we put them online on our Instagram, on our YouTube to see what people's reaction was first, right? And literally like people started commenting on that saying, oh, this is beautiful, we'd love to be able to learn, right? So that was a clear customer insight for us that okay, maybe this can work. And the fact that they were able to record and send it across to us online, and then we would use that part that they had sent to us as a backup. That's, when we do an online workshop, what if their internet stops working? At least we can then show this video while, the workshop is going on, so that the, people can at least follow along easily and complete, the artwork that they've started. So that's how, the experiment started. Actually, the first experiment literally was like create content, post it online, see people's reaction, and then, take it from there.
Because I also remember that you were sending out kits in order to do these
Mhm.
workshops.
So
How?
that was the next customer insight. I think I would say the one thing we've constantly done is that we've constantly been looking at customer insights and chatting with our, users. The first 200 workshops, I personally co-hosted it along with the artists, right? So which meant, and at that point of time, we used to create WhatsApp groups as well for every workshop, which meant the first 1,000 to 1,200 attendees of our workshop, I had each one of their numbers on WhatsApp. They all had me on WhatsApp as well, which meant that I was constantly getting feedback from a lot of them. Like they would like ping me, they would tell me that, oh, we love doing this, 1 to 2 hour workshop. Now we'd like to do a deeper dive. Can you help us, create like 5 day workshops, 6 day workshops, do like more complex artworks, or almost like start from like create a curriculum almost as well. So now these arts have never been taught formally, right? Like I mentioned, these are generational arts. There's no formal school for teaching them. So India has over
Not even
3,000 styles of arts and crafts.
not even the art school.
No, there's literally, of the 3,000 arts and crafts that India has, there's probably two to three that are taught formally in schools. There's Thanka art from Himachal, like it's, what you see behind me, that's Thanka actually, which is taught formally in an art school. They have a specific art school, a few specific art schools for Thanka. And there's Kerala mural from Kerala, which also has a specific art school called Guruvayur. The rest, maybe Mysore sometimes has an art school as well, but otherwise none at all. Everything's passed
Wow.
generationally. So, which meant that we were almost creating curriculums as well sometimes, right? Like on the first, if it's a 5 day curriculum, then first day, let's understand how to create borders. Second day, let's understand like the color theory of this art form, the other patterns and motifs of this art form. Because in Indian art, also, the thing is that everything is very specific. Everything has a story, every motif has a story, every color has a significance and symbolism behind it as well. And people really want to learn those, things basically, right? Because that's the whole idea of, otherwise, there's contemporary art. You can try any experiment that you want with it. But with the Indian traditional, arts and crafts, the beautiful thing is how many stories there are with everything, what significance there is for everything that there is, right? So while creating these curriculums, we had to be cognizant of all of that. And then the next insight was literally what you were asking, that, people started telling us that, oh, the materials required for some of these art forms are very specific. Most artists actually make their own colors, right? Like, I mean, I would say Indian arts and crafts are sustainable by their very nature, because what the artists do is that based on the surroundings around them, the colors they make is pretty much made from, things around them, basically, right?
Flowers.
So obviously, flowers, vegetables, soil. Like there's a couple of art forms which use the soil of the region as well, basically, right? So yeah, I mean, it's amazing actually how, there's one called palm leaf engraving, which actually uses the leaf of the palm tree, and there's engraving done on that as well. So it's amazing how, yeah, everything like within the region is used in the art forms as well. And obviously that's how these art forms evolved. So then people realize that, oh, I mean, if they want to learn it really authentically, then they would like the materials for that art form as well. So that's when we started telling the artists to send us the materials. We would create art kits out of that. So imagine like a very seamless experience. You're signing up for a class and you're getting an art kit along with that as well before the class starts, so that, you have a very authentic experience of learning from a master artist, as well as the materials prepared by the master artist as well. Yeah, the only thing is you're not there, but almost there. The other big insight, which was a big, movement for us also, was that we saw that while people loved the live experience of an online workshop, because then they have a cohort that they're learning with as well, right? And that's the whole, joy of learning, along with a cohort, because the artist is teaching you, yet you have a cohort that can help you, guide you, answer your questions, you're chit chatting with, and obviously during the pandemic, that having that community, a like-minded community, was a very, very big thing, right? Like, in fact, I've seen like some of the most beautiful friendships emerge from our workshops, right? In fact, like, I moved from Hong Kong to Australia during the pandemic. The first few people that I met in Sydney were, our workshop attendees who I had become friends with. And in fact, two of them are such close friends that literally now they're best friends for life. They met during a workshop, then they met for coffee after that, and now they hang out all the time. So, but yeah, what we saw is that while people loved that live interaction, there were also people who were in a very different time zone, and just kind of committing to that, specific time was an issue. And but they wanted to learn from a master artist, so they would buy these old Zoom recordings of our workshops. Imagine, these are not very high quality recordings. It's literally like we're having this podcast right now and somebody's buying to watch this. That's what made us realize that, oh, there seems to be a market almost for like a masterclass.com, but for the heritage arts and crafts of India. And that's when my team had, the pandemic started to open a little bit. So I set up, a slightly bigger team, and they started traveling across the country to start recording content, and almost like what we were teaching in a live workshop, record it beautifully, make it a really well produced, masterclass. So that's when we started working on these pre-recorded masterclasses as well. Our content became a combination of live workshops as well as pre-recorded masterclasses.
Like, it sounds like customers were just coming to you organically because, as you said, you were the first one to do something like this. How hard was it, one, getting customers, and then two, growing that customer
Yeah,
base?
I think the getting customers part was quite easy initially, to be honest, and touchwood, very glad for that. I think the factors, during that time were such that people did want something interesting to do, and we had started to create a very strong community. I think that community pulled people for sure, because also what I realized is that if I compare, like, when we did the really beautiful hand painted handbags versus an experience where you're creating something by yourself and learning, from a master artist, you're almost feeling like you're part of something bigger as well. I think that the experience and pride of doing that, the amount that people shared on social media was 100x higher than what they like, even though they loved our work earlier, right? They loved the handbags, but I guess experiences versus products, people share experiences so much more. And obviously, people started like sharing it on their own Facebook, on their Instagram, and birds of a feather do flock together. Then their friends started signing up as well, right? So it's literally like it became a really nice flywheel in terms of being able to acquire customers during the initial time. So I think initial times, initial 1 year, literally we spend nothing on marketing whatsoever. And the other one big, change that happened during that time, because when the team started traveling for masterclasses, is when we started recording content for our own marketing as well. Because when you go to a particular place, honestly, everything is content, right? From the local food you're eating to the local clothes people are wearing, the local jewelry, the music of the region, the dance of the region. And we started realizing that Indian arts are it's such a community thing, to be honest, that they're so, like, the arts are not just about the artist creating the art, they're telling the stories of the people around them, right? Like, everything is connected. So many Indian arts are connected to music as well, and to performances. They're actually, theatrical art forms, which are sort of scrolls are like opened up, and the artist is themselves a storyteller, or they have someone else who is the storyteller as well. So that point of time, when we started recording masterclasses, we started creating a lot of content for marketing as well, right? And this is the first time where we got the opportunity to create really high quality content for marketing, because before that we were literally doing online workshops, so everything was like Zoom recording, so not very high quality. And also, like, no one had focused before this on telling the stories of these artists as the master artists that they are, right? I think the sad part has been that the narrative in the craft space has been a lot around like, oh, let's support Indian artists, let's help Indian artists, right? The word help is thrown around too much. And we totally stayed away from that. As a team, we hate that word, because the idea is that it's a privilege actually to be able to experience these arts and to be able to see the mastery of these artists. And the feeling of pride is what we want to like invoke in people, rather than the feeling of like help and support them, right? Like, we need them as much as, they need us actually, right? Like arts is, I mean, during the pandemic, at least everyone realized that arts and creativity is what makes us human and keeps hope alive in everyone as well, right? Keeps us centered. So I think that's when we really started focusing on using very high quality content for our social media. We literally had our first 1 million views reel during that time as well. We did this art form called Rogan art, which went really viral on our Instagram and Facebook. Then another art form called Mulela Terracotta, which went very viral as well. And that was a clear insight for us again that this form of storytelling and showcasing the mastery of these artists is something that we absolutely must keep doing, because till now our efforts, our community kind of attracted itself and we kept building the community. But now to reach more people, we have to make sure we showcase the mastery of these artists and bring that patronage back to them, right? Like, I mean, they shouldn't just be nameless, faceless artisans as, people think of them. I mean, they're true masters, and that's the recognition we need to bring back to them. And all our social media marketing efforts then started to focus on that. And I think that was a very important change for us as well.
I like when you started investing heavily into content production, were you revenue positive, or was this is an investment that I need to make now?
So at that point of time, I raised a small pre-seed, I mean, angel round is what I would say. We raised about 100,000 US at that point of time, because definitely needed to invest in hiring a team, have decent-ish equipment. Although I would say honestly, like for masterclasses, yes, we needed better equipment, but for socials, honestly, the iPhone is such a powerful tool. I mean, it records beautiful content. Anyone who wants to create content, I would always say that equipment is hardly thing that they should be worried about. I mean, phones are super powerful these days for sure, and they're such powerful editing capabilities now as well. So yeah, I mean, that point we definitely had to raise money, because hiring a team, most importantly, and making sure that we can travel around to these regions as well. I mean, all of that required some investment into the business that time.
Yeah, before you hired the team, how many people did you actually have, like full time versus contractors?
So literally the first 2 years, I would say, was 4 people full time, including me. And the next 2 years, now the team has grown to like about 18 people full time and two contractors. But yeah, so it's been that journey from like four, pre raising money to now about 18 people post raising money.
At what point did you switch from this is organic marketing to, okay, I have to start paying for some sort of ads?
I think we still haven't reached that point, to be honest. We spend on marketing now. We have been spending on marketing for the last 2 years, I would
Mhm.
say, but very tiny amounts. Like we spend like, let me convert it, 80,000 INR a month, less than 1,000 US a month
Oh,
on
okay.
paid marketing. Yeah,
Right.
so we spend really little on paid marketing. I mean, till date, our growth has still been an organic growth story rather than a paid marketing growth story. We've never like seen a very great ROS on the paid marketing. It's always been like 2.5-ish at most. It's not bad, between 2 to 2.5-ish, but it's never kind of given me the confidence that, okay, let's start putting in a lot more money into paid marketing, because honestly, even our organic content takes money to kind of create, right? So we're always evaluating, okay, should we spend this money in paid marketing or should we spend this money on creating more, beautiful content, right? And because there's so much content to create, India does have 3,000 arts and crafts. We want to like make sure we cover each of these on our platform. So it will, I mean, that decision will always then, lean towards let's create more beautiful content rather than spending on paid marketing. So if we look at our website traffic as well, I mean, 80% is organic. Content and SEO has played a very, very big role. We make sure we write like insane number of sort of, articles about each of these crafts, a little bit around design and aesthetics and all as well, but mostly about the crafts and the stories in these crafts. We write extremely detailed and well researched articles on our website. Every month we would be producing at least 20 to 25 articles. So imagine like almost an article every
Yeah.
day is what we are pushing out as well. And that, and even painting, like, we have over 10,000 listings on our website, and every listing is well researched, well documented. So imagine like all of these are then, we have the whole long tail of keywords that we are focusing on. And you search for any of these, you search for like kalamkari, for example, right? You will see us pop up in the first few results, because we've been focused on it like that. We've been focused on since literally the first year of operations itself, right? I realized, I thought very early on that let's, make sure we can, because no one else has taken a very tech enabled approach to this space.
Yeah.
Like in this space in India, it's always been like smaller organizations, like non-profits as well that work in the space. So no one has really taken a like thoughtful approach to scalability using technology. And that for me was important, that from the very beginning, I wanted to make sure that every organic, tool that I can kind of make use of, we should be doing that. So SEO has been very, very critical to our growth as well.
And I love that you mentioned it because right now I feel like a lot of brands, when they hear organic, they think, oh, TikTok or Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
And then a lot of marketers or a lot of like business owners are just forgetting about the importance of SEO. Did you focus mostly just on content or did you focus on social media or are you just doing both at the same time?
Both, for sure. Yeah, both were equally important for us. Like, I mean, of course, the joy of creating, content for social media is much
Yeah.
more fun. So as a team, obviously, you kind of, get attracted to that more. But then, like, we made sure that we have like one or two people always in a research team as well, because then their main deliverable always is to make sure they're churning out articles, everything is well written. Of course, the research team, they don't always understand SEO well. So making sure that our research writers absolutely understand SEO. So for SEO, we've always had an external contractor. That's the one thing that we've
Yeah.
not had in house. But we made, like, I always made sure that that external contractor has weekly calls with the rest of the team, so that the rest of the team always understands what their deliverables are in terms of SEO as well. They have
Yeah.
to use the right keywords. They have to make sure, that, yeah, they are the ones who write the meta descriptions as well. And yeah, so it's, I mean, it's not something everyone does, but for us, it's been very critical that every researcher who writes for us should make sure that everything they do is SEO friendly.
So have you by any chance ever, as you were doing the SEO work, have you found that there are particular forms of art that are like trending as keywords
For
and then you're
sure.
like, we gotta like put this on our
Yeah,
website?
every business, there's the whole 80-20 rule that usually applies, right? That 80% of your business does end up coming from the top 20 of your art
Yeah.
forms, etc., etc. That applies to us as well. But I mean, we want to make sure that we cover everything else also. So it's almost that the top 20% is subsidizing the rest of the
Yeah.
80% of the art forms for us. So absolutely, we absolutely do look at, search engine trends as well and try and make sure we know like which keywords are the ones which are heavily searched keywords. That's not an exercise you can do like every day, obviously, but every 2 months or 3 months, the SEO contractor, we make sure he gives us this whole list as well. That for the last 6 months, here's all the keywords related to you guys. Here's the density for, what kind of search volumes these keywords have. Where you rank for some, I mean, obviously, we try and follow like 20 to 30 keywords that we definitely want to rank in the top three for, right? Like that's something we constantly track now. And for everything else, it's the idea is that at least come on the first page, right? Like for all the long tail of keywords, make sure that we can try and come on the first page and create strategies for that, right? So for sure, we have to try and make sure that, yeah, we're always, looking at the trends, looking at the volumes of, what keywords are being searched for. And also, obviously, there's seasonality as well. Like, Diwali is coming up.
Yeah.
Obviously, 2 months before Diwali, you should be writing some articles about, doing up your Diwali decor, you do the Diwali decor trends for your home this year, right? Or artisanal gifts for Diwali this year, right? So those are articles that like team is literally publishing them right now.
And then obviously because you started one trending on social media, two, you had amazing traffic, competitors start knocking on your door,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
There-
Yeah.
like, I remember there was this one, and I'm sure there were more than one, but they copied your entire website, they copied your
Yeah.
SEO strategy.
Yeah.
Like, how did you defend yourself against that specifically? Like, defend your search territory?
I think like my response to that has always been that we've just got to keep doing what we are doing, keep doubling down on our efforts, to be honest. There's literally nothing else that one can do for competition. So that's literally what we've just always been doing. We keep an eye on competition now. I mean, honestly, now like so many websites have, cropped up because suddenly no one was selling Indian traditional art online.
Yeah.
And once we started doing that, I would say there's at least 50 plus websites now that are selling Indian art online. Yeah, I mean, because everyone realizes, right, that this is an untapped space.
Yeah.
And there is national pride coming back. Like, in India, the thing is we've always been very, enamored by everything outside India. And when someone else outside India uses it, then, we get fascinated by that as well. But I would say at least right now, it definitely feels that there's some pride coming back in our own, homegrown, and our, generational sort of culture as well. So it feels like the right time. So of course, lots of competitors have come up. I think my response to that is
Yeah.
literally that, yeah, we got to make sure that at least that 20% of the art forms and artists that, we do really well with, that definitely has to be defended. So try and create more moat around them. So for example, one thing we've done recently is that, when I said that the artists don't have a digital voice or presence at all, we've been focused on creating their digital voice and presence on our platform, on our social media, on MeMeraki social media and MeMeraki website. But the fact is that they actually don't have their own social, and all at all as well. And obviously for us, that is, if they did have a social, that's a little bit of, we wouldn't be promoting that, because then customers to try and like bypass us. So we realized that actually, and surprisingly, the top 20% of our artists actually didn't have social media accounts. And we had created so much content for them because we'd been to their locations and recorded content. So then we convinced them that, okay, we'll start your social media accounts as well, and we'll manage it end to end. We're not going to charge you anything for it, but the transactions will all flow through us, right? It'll be like a co-managed account. You can log in anytime and respond as well. If there's other opportunities that come up, absolutely, we'll pass that on to you. But anything to do with transactions, projects, that'll all flow through us, and that'll be the revenue model for us, right? So it's literally like, for example, on their bios, it's the every artist has a collection on our website. So it's the in their bio, the link would be of our collection. And I think we've done this for the last 8 to 9 months, and like a lot of the artist accounts have crossed 15,000, 20,000 followers already,
Amazing.
because the whatever we know about building, our own account is what we've been applying to building their own account as well. And imagine, like, we've not grown the team size to manage that. It's literally like everyone in the team has taken on one extra account,
Yeah.
literally. And yeah, that's how we're managing, 15 extra accounts. But imagine that this is how actually we are creating a complete, digital identity for them, right? Like their work is so discoverable online
They're
now
almost like
because of this. Yeah, so I think our response has always been, what more can we do to create a moat around our work? So like this is one way where we've created a moat already as well, right? Like now we control, like, we, number one, we've increased distribution for us. Number two, we control, everything that's coming to these artists, right? And yeah, I think making sure we are the ones adding, more and more art forms. We are the ones like onboarding more new artists every year, creating even better content, like upping the game of our content literally every couple of months. I think even our content is getting copied now. Like the way we were telling our story, the aesthetic that we had defined for us, even that's getting copied completely now. But you just got to keep getting better and keep doing, bigger, better things. And that's just what we've been focused on. So we keep an eye on competition, but otherwise we're more focused on like forward looking strategies, that what better can we do? What more can we do that no one else has been thinking about?
As you said,
Yeah.
like you're building moat, you're almost becoming an artist management. It's such a good idea. Um, I didn't know that your team is managing all of that. Like that is super impressive.
Yeah.
Are you seeing sales come through these accounts? And
Yes.
two, how do you scale this? Like, how do you scale this
Yeah.
artist management arm?
Yeah, I think so. That's where, obviously at this point of time, we have created enough content. We try and follow similar strategies. Like we'll do a one weekly call between the entire team, which is managing these artist accounts. And we kind of have a strategy around, okay, one day, like do like 3 to 4 posts a week. It's very difficult to do daily posts on the artist accounts, and have like a strategy around, like, one day will be, an artwork, one day will be a making video, one day will be the artist, sort of speaking something, one day will be a customer testimonial, right? Like that sort of, let's say, then we'll follow that for a few weeks. Then a few weeks later, we'll reconnect again and say, okay, now let's, mix it up a bit and decide like what else can we do and change it up, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, then we have to tell the artist to create some content and send it as well, because we start running out of content when we are posting like, 4 to 5 times a week. But I feel like that's something where to scale this, like right now it's 15 artists that we are managing. If we need to scale this, I mean, how I visualize it is that, imagine every time we onboard an artist, for example, it's 350 artists we are working with right now. Our standard operating procedure is that, oh, we onboard them on the website. We also manage their social media, and we kind of do everything for them end to end, right? Like that's how I visualize how things would be. And to do that, I mean, it can't just be like throw more people at the problem. Then we have to think about using technology effectively, right? Like that's where I feel AI will have to come in. Like, for example, like even right now, things like putting a painting in a setting. For example, like this is a setup behind me. And now to do that, it's a graphic designer in my team who's doing that, right? Because one of the big things is that people always tell us, oh, I can't visualize how traditional Indian art will look in my modern home. And that's why we have this whole augmented reality feature we've created as well. But even for, I mean, otherwise we need to create these setups, manually, literally, right? The graphic designer needs to do that. Now, I know that Shopify, for example, has already started like creating AI tools where you upload a painting and you literally like you can have setups that you can choose within that. I mean, obviously, all software tools like Adobe and all, have that, Photoshop and all have that already as well. But imagine like automating a lot of this content creation. I think we'll definitely have to think of ways of how we automate some of this content creation, right? Like based on all the previous content you have, generate some new content ideas. And I know like that's something where we definitely want to use your platform at some point of time for sure, because it's very hard to imagine scaling it otherwise. I mean, we have to, just as we've used technology in different ways to scale our work till now, we have to make sure we keep using technology in different ways going forward as well, and whatever new tech is coming up. So I feel like one way I can definitely visualize scaling this is we'll have to think about how to automate some content creation.
Yeah, it's crazy how much stuff you're doing with not that big of a team. Also, I know that you recently started doing sales decks. Now,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of for the audiences,
Mm,
you started getting B2B deals, which
yeah,
I don't know if that was planned, like that was part of the
it
roadmap,
wasn't planned.
came
Yeah,
organically.
organic.
So at this point, obviously, like the role switches from being a content marketer, right? And of course, all of the operational stuff
Mm,
that comes with like managing the artists. But then this is a sales role. Like, how are you doing the sales decks? How are your
yeah.
like how is your like sales arm forming?
I mean, we do have two people in the team who manage sales for customers as well, right? So the thing you need to think about in India, and specifically in India, and also this category as a product category, is that the Indian customer is not a very DIY customer. It's a very do it for me customer, which is that while the website has everything, it has all the filters, we've spent a lot of time putting in metadata for each of the artworks that go on our website so that it's filterable, searchable by color, by size. You won't find that anywhere else, by the way, either, right? Like we spend a lot of time like putting in metadata on every artwork so that you can find what you're looking for. But people don't really want to do that on their own. So it's our team that uses all of that the most, because so
Right.
we have a two people sales team because yeah, the one way of scaling our sales on the B2C side has literally been this strategy that ever since the time, like about 9 months ago, we'd made sure that we put two dedicated people in sales, because now we have leads coming in from everywhere, right? All of these artist accounts that we are managing, we have leads coming in from that. We have leads coming in from our own Instagram. We have leads coming on the website. We have leads coming from email. So lots of different places from where leads are coming in. Literally, I would say about 45 to 50 leads come in every day, all from socials as well as organically on the website as well. Like we have an art planner. Like you'll see everywhere on the website, the call to action that we put is that speak to our art planner. Because if you're buying a product category which is over like 200 US, 300 US, then you want like some hand holding. Also, people do ask for customizing. Everything on our website is made to order, by the way. We stock nothing. It's a marketplace where everything is made to order. So also that, I think customers want some reassurance as well that is there someone really, there behind this business? Plus, more importantly, they want to be sent the choices to them rather than them having to look for, all of this themselves, right? So that part of sales has definitely been already like the B2C side of our business. Like it needs two dedicated salespeople. B2B has basically been very organic, that leads have started coming in. But every B2B project, and we've done like I would say about 15, 20 B2B projects now. And these have been all been like fairly big B2B projects, like everything from we've done an art installation at an airport. We've done art exhibitions, like 5 to 6 art exhibitions across different cities. We've done marketing using, marketing campaigns using Indian art. Like recently there was, this noodle brand which wanted to utilize a local Indian art form for that marketing for that local region itself, right? So the designer, the artist, and three artists spend like 3 weeks with their animator, and they created everything by hand. Then the animation team took everything and animated the whole thing to create a video out of that, right? So, I mean, the scope is endless in B2B, to be honest. It's a very, very huge market, but every project is different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean till now it's all been organic, luckily. Like these leads came in and we just responded to these leads. But obviously, like for each of these now, there's a category, right? Airports is one category, hotels is one
Right.
category, marketing campaigns, for brands is one category, right? Art exhibitions is one category. And obviously for all the ideation and, putting together these, beautiful ideas, we definitely need the design team. So the design team feeds a lot into these B2B decks as well. But now that we have a whole category of projects we've done, at least we have, a lot of assets that we can then start reusing across these different proposals and pitches that we do. But yeah, the whole team pitches in into that.
Have you already started sending out pitches to ideal clients?
Last 10 months of getting B2B projects has all been inbound, just about started outbound now.
Are they inbound slowing down, or are they just kind of constant, or are they
Still
too
going,
sporadic to tell?
still going. I mean, I would say every month we get at least a good three, four good B2B
Yeah.
organic leads. Yeah.
And then you have to wait for them to convert for quite a while.
The
Yeah.
pre-sales process in B2B is at least minimum 2 months. The project implementation can range between a month, 2 months, minimum a month, but it could range to up to 5 months as well. Like the airport art installation we did took us 5 months.
The exhibitions that you've done, or like the larger events and installations, have those contributed much to awareness following sales, or has that really been kind of amazing for
Yeah,
branding, but not much growth?
I would say the latter. Online is the fastest way to grow. But that said, again, the fact that at least we get to meet the community, they get to put a face to the name, and hopefully those leads will convert into something, bigger later as well. So we think of in-person events as long as we break even on our costs,
Got it.
that's fine. It's just for branding and marketing, and that's why we're doing these in-person events because yeah, we want people to be able to know who we are and see this work in person as well. But otherwise, the largest focus will still stay online.
And with so much growth, consumers are coming in, businesses are coming in. Are they also
Hmm.
coming to you asking, hey, could I put my art
Yeah.
here?
So that's definitely a flywheel that's working a bit on its own as well now. Like every day, we'll have an artist or two reaching out as well, but not the master artists that we want because they're not digitally enabled at the end of the day. There's one person in the team who's constantly researching, coming up with artist names, and we try and see like it's an artist that has won maybe some award. Hopefully, they're a generational artist. That's the two criteria we try and use to reach out to an artist, basically. But
Got
we
it.
do keep an internal KPI for our team that every month we should be onboarding at least 15 to 20 new artists.
Is there is there an outreach or like a marketing strategy, or is it primarily just
No,
research direct reach
just
out?
pretty much that. Yeah. We don't have an outreach strategy as far as marketing is concerned for artists. I think the primary outreach that works is we get in touch with them. We explain to them some of the more famous artists in traditional arts who are already working with us. And that already generates its credibility. Like when they come to our website and then they see all the names of other artists because the artist community knows each other well, right? Like, so as long as they know each other, then that convinces them that, okay, I mean, these are the artists who are already working. They'll pick up the phone, speak with them, and obviously they'll get to hear good things about our work, hopefully. So yeah, that's pretty much what works right now on the artist side.
As part of the onboarding, is it like a person, like you go out there and you meet them,
Hmm.
or it's all online?
Right now, mostly starts with online, but because content creation is such an important part for us, right? We do try and make sure that we schedule a visit at some point of time. But I would say, like, of the 350 artists we have, we've probably met about 80 to 90 of them in person till now
Yeah.
and gone and created content for them. The rest has been online. I think if WhatsApp didn't exist, we couldn't have built this business. I
Yeah.
mean, WhatsApp is literally the lowest common denominator as far as tech enablement is concerned. Every artist knows how to use WhatsApp. They know how to share photos, videos, voice notes on WhatsApp. Like even when they need to tell us stories of the art form, voice notes on
Yeah.
WhatsApp is something they're very comfortable with. So we couldn't have existed without WhatsApp for sure, because that's the only way we can reach artists in the remotest corners of India, right? Like we give them a call, explain everything, create a WhatsApp group with them, send them like, information about us, send them like references of other artists who work with us. And that's when they start, understanding. And then they share details from their side as well on WhatsApp.
The voice notes, we haven't yet launched it on Stella, but a little bit down the line, you can convert that into an actual full-on blog and other like
Oh,
content.
oh,
Have you
cool.
tried?
Yeah.
Have you tried
No,
with
we haven't. When we were creating master classes, for example, or we are creating master classes, I mean, most of the artists either speak in Hindi or maybe sometimes in a regional language, right? But
Mm.
obviously, we want our master classes to be understandable by everyone. So we always need subtitles, explaining that.
Right.
So earlier, it would literally be, imagine the making of a masterclass is a very complex process of someone going and recording first a research brief being put together of what we are going to do in this masterclass, then someone traveling, going and recording, coming back and editing it, going through multiple cuts, and then like handing it over to someone who does the subtitles, has to listen to all of it, write the subtitles literally and give it back basically, and then adding the subtitles, and then there's a final version ready. So we realize the subtitles also, now there's tech available for that as well. So there's a couple of platforms which specifically specialize even in regional language to English, subs as well. And I would say when we've used them, and now we use them quite regularly, at least 70% accuracy, which means it reduces a human's effort at least by 70%, right? So now it's almost a question of, okay, maybe I don't even need to go through all the content to write the subs. I just need to look at these subs and see what's looking grammatically incorrect. If there's specific words which look, sound a little strange, then that's the part of the video I'll go and watch and edit that out, right? So for sure, it's been quite game changing to be able to have tech like that available.
Yosha, you make it sound like everything has just worked so well and it's just all easy. You can have spilled the beans. Like you must have had branding challenges, marketing challenges, sales challenges. What were some of them that you remember?
So I would say, yeah, of course, marketing and branding has been a challenge in general for this category, because A, it's been a very unorganized category. B, it's such a vast category that coming up with,
Mm.
something very specific in terms of brand is difficult. I mean, and of course, like, pricing has been like, a challenge as well. The one thing that bothers me endlessly is customers will always be like, oh, but I can reach out to the artist directly and they will sell it to
Oh,
me at a much lower price.
right.
And we see that now because we manage the artist accounts as well for a lot of the artists. So there'll always be customers who'll try and like, bypass and say, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
but why is it so expensive? To be true, like most of the customers we get, because of the effort we are putting into the marketing and
Yeah.
showing the process, they understand the effort that goes behind, and hence, the fact that why is something priced the way it is priced, right?
Mm,
But there's always challenges around pricing. Like, why is one artist more expensive than another artist, right? It
right.
could be, even if the artworks might look very visually, if the artworks look very visually similar, of course it's a challenge, right? So if they look very different and there's something which has a lot of intricate details, of course you can justify that.
Yep.
Or sometimes it's about the artist is a much more senior artist, a much more awarded artist, is being collected by, XYZ people, and hence
More
the
valuable.
price is higher. But yeah, pricing and customers trying to bypass and try and like go in disintermediate you, obviously, like that's always a challenge in a marketplace, that
Right.
people, not just customers, even brands and big businesses try and disintermediate you as well. While it might be your idea, you put together the whole
Yeah.
proposition, and then they'll go and try and implement it with an artist directly, but then they realize that it's not as easy to work with artists directly, and which is why businesses like us exist, right? So I would say, yeah, people kind of disintermediating you and not placing value on what we bring to the table is definitely something that probably needs to be communicated better as well overall. I think we need to kind of work a little more on that in terms of our marketing. Otherwise, I think the scaling is definitely an issue, because at the end of the day, everything in this space is very operationally heavy, extremely operationally heavy, right? Like right from finding the artist to onboarding the artist to creating
Mhm.
content for the artist to finally when an order comes in, kind of managing that order process as well,
Yep.
keeping an eye on, how is the art evolving, sending updates to users. It's all very, very operationally heavy. So yeah, how do we scale all of that, right? Like right now we have 350 artists. If we want to go to 3,000 artists next and 30,000 artists at some point of time, because India does have over 200 million people employed in craft. So it's a
Wow.
big market for being able to, have more artists on our
Yeah.
platform. Obviously, what's worked now is not what can continue working, right? We will have to think about how do we use technology more effectively.
What about building loyalty with customers? Is that
Mhm.
a program or something top of
I
mind?
mean, we
Or
have a loyalty program on the website for sure, where people accumulate points and yeah, they can kind of, redeem that for basically cash back on their orders. I would say why people do come back to us, like even workshops, obviously, I told you was like 50% plus higher sort of retention. Even now, it's a 30% plus retention. People who buy art actually have come back to buy more art as well. So, which is why it is a high retention number. We just go to whatever length possible to ensure that someone's happy with what they bought from us. And again, that's something I tell my sales team very categorically as well, that imagine it's a responsibility that someone is buying something from us which is going to stay in their homes and it's going to be a part of their lives for
Yeah.
years and years. It's a
And
big responsibility. And hence we need to make sure that it's something that they're truly happy with. So even if it sometimes means, and it happens very rarely that someone's very unhappy with something that they, ordered from us. If it does, we'll absolutely make sure we replace that. We spend, enough time in getting it to a point where they're happy with what they have. And I think they see that effort, the effort that we put in for every single order, whether it's a $50 order or, $3,000 order, like is the same amount of effort, honestly, that we put into each customer. And I think that translates into, loyalty from them as well. But they do come back, they refer us to other friends and family as well. So yeah, I think treating everyone right is probably, the best thing to ensure loyalty.
what is your, yeah, what is the next big kind of like big goal, big dream, big
Hmm.
just next big thing for you?
Making sure organically we double every year in terms of everything we're doing, number of artists, our revenue, the income we are passing back to the artists, all of that should organically be doubling year on year for sure right now. That's a pretty big number, I think. But beyond that, I mean, yeah, I mean, in fact, I made the team write letters to themselves recently as well, saying that, oh, write a letter. Like, imagine you're 5 years, down the line, you're writing a letter to yourself and telling you, like, telling yourself what you've been proud about, right? And it's really nice the kind of things that emerge from there. Like, someone in the team really wants to make sure that we create craft documentaries for Netflix. Like, we have a whole series on craft documentaries for
Oh,
Netflix, which is true. Like, I mean, that's one thing that'll give like a lot of visibility, to the space overall as well, right? Like,
right.
someone wants to, yeah, one person in the team wants to make sure we are in every airport in India has an art installation from us. Big corporate spaces have art
Yeah.
installations from us as well. So I think, yeah, there's, obviously like goals for each part of the business. But ultimately, like my goal remains like the one North Star that remains is that these 3,000 arts and crafts of India, we want to make sure we have representation and we are the voice for, the master artists for each of these 3,000 arts and crafts. We're
Yeah.
still very far away from that. Like we've covered about 150 of these arts. So yeah, I mean, need to double down on these efforts, use all the tool, all the tech available to us to be able to double down on these efforts. And I think at some point, like the big vision I have for the business is either like we call ourselves culture tech, right? So the one direction that we can take is that we are everything to do with culture for India, which is not just art and craft. Art and craft is a part of that, but everything else, like, local
Ooh,
music of India,
sense.
local dances, local food, right? Everything basically that happens in the remote corners of India and is
Mm,
getting, is getting lost basically because no one's digitally enabled in all of this, right? Either it's that or it is that we use this playbook then across the world and we become the sort of global art and craft platform for across the world because similar problems plague arts and crafts everywhere basically, right? Like digital enablement, sort of design intervention, that's something that is a problem most places across the world as far as art and craft is concerned. So I think I'm still out. I mean, the jury's still out on which direction we want to take. I think for now it feels like we just want to like be India culture everything. But let's see.
I mean, you've got this whole not do you only have the first mover advantage in the space, but you obviously have the loyalty. You have an
The
amazing
team,
team.
yeah. Most importantly, I think very lucky that yeah, amazing team, very young team. They're all leading their own teams now. Like everyone's leading a team of 2-3 people. They've all pretty much been around for 3+ years. They're the ones who come up with ideas. They challenge like my ideas as well. It's like I'm like, oh my god, I've built Frankenstein's monsters. Like from being kids, they challenge everything now, which is amazing actually. So yes, I mean the team very blessed and privileged to be working with a really amazing team.
Oh, when they hear that, I hope they're proud.
For
Um,
sure.
Yosha, thank you so much for joining me on the Marketing Breakfast and for sharing your incredible experience and expertise.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun.